Yes, hello. I want to thank you for your interest and support in our profession. And I have a question regarding inspections. I'm Janice Brownlee. I'm with a company named ViewRay. But in previous occupations, well, not occupations, but employers, I participated in numerous FDA inspections, and some of them were overseas. And I was struck by the difference between a domestic inspection and a foreign inspection. They were noticeably shorter, they were a lot less rigorous, and it made it very apparent to me the uneven playing field for foreign corporations bringing products into the United States versus the rigor that we are inspected by the FDA here domestically. Could you address, please, what the FDA is doing regarding foreign inspections and with all of the outsourcing, how they're looking to make devices safer?
Well, clearly the issue of foreign inspections is absolutely essential, and it's been brought, I think, into the spotlight by some recent problems with products coming in from other countries, importantly the heparin on the drug side and the melamine on the food side. But at the present time, we have a system that is inadequate. You're absolutely right. We both don't have adequate resources to be everywhere that we need to be, and frankly, we don't have the strategic framework for how we're going to utilize what will inevitably be limited resources to manage what is truly a global problem. And so I think, we are currently undergoing a very intensive effort internally to examine these questions and build out this strategic framework. But significantly, it has to be done in partnership. There is no question in my mind that this is an arena where we cannot and should not go it alone. There are so many other countries around the world that are struggling to cope with the same problems that we are. We have to really develop an integrated, collaborative vision for how to approach this, and it means working with sister regulatory agencies to harmonize standards, to share information, and to share on-the-ground responsibility. There's no reason that if one regulatory authority has been in a facility and done an inspection, that we can't take advantage of that and not go in there again ourselves, but to go somewhere else where nobody has been recently. So we need to really figure out a strategy and map out the landscape and do it in partnership. And I think we have to work very hard, and I think that the developed nations have to provide leadership and resources to the developing world to help build regulatory capacity to bring up the standards in those nations, so that we can really be operating with a more level playing field, to use, I think, some language that you used. I think maybe one last question.
Yes. Martin Berman-Gorvine from FDA News. What are the major issues in regarding clinical research that you've been dealing with in your term in office so far, and what major initiatives are you planning?
Well, I should have stopped the question period before that question, because that's a little bit more in the weeds. I mean, clinical research is obviously an underpinning of so much of the important regulatory review that we undertake, and it's important in so many different ways. It's important that there be well-designed clinical trials that provide meaningful data. It's important that there be ethical clinical trials that are done with appropriate oversight. It's important that we think about new ways of doing clinical trials using new analytic approaches and really trying to adapt the best possible science and statistics to some of the new challenges that we're facing in terms of product review. And it's important, again, that we think about clinical trials in terms of the global setting and how we make use of clinical trial data from around the world and the appropriate conduct, both scientifically and ethically, of those clinical trials. So there's a very large agenda with respect to clinical research and clinical trials. It's very important to me, and I have done clinical research in past lives. But your question is rather broad for me to give a much more detailed answer to at this time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I do look forward to working with you.
What a wonderful way to end a spectacular conference. Again, my special thanks to Mark Gordon and all of the annual conference planning committee, to all of you who are speakers and exhibitors and sponsors, but all of you who are participants. It's been palpable to see the energy and enthusiasm that's occurring among all of you as regulatory professionals today. And as Dr. Hamburg said, it's incumbent on all of us to think about the challenges that lie ahead. We serve the public, we're preserving public health and safety and quality of life around the world. You have a very challenging job. And as Dr. Hamburg also discussed, it's one of these jobs that's not necessarily well known by the public. As she said, and as all of you said, the public knows when something goes wrong, but they don't necessarily know what's going behind the scenes. But if you recall from Jim Collins, when he talked about great leaders are not always the ones who are in the spotlights. They're the ones quietly working behind the scenes to make changes, make those changes effectively, and bring great groups of creative people together. And I think that's what embodies the regulatory profession. And I think as we look at the landscape of the future, it's not going to slow down, as Mark Gordon said. We're in the throes of healthcare system changes, both in the US and around the world. Those things are probably going to exist for several more months or years or decades. But again, this is an opportunity for the profession to come together and to work in facilitating those changes and really making a mark. As I said in the beginning of the conference, it's been a great pleasure for me to watch this profession as it evolved over time, as it stepped up and embraced challenges, took on new responsibilities, and I think we're going to see those opportunities because you are leading the way. And again, RAPS will be here, working globally, working locally, trying to engage your intellect, your abilities, your creativities to make all of this happen. Before I bid you farewell, I want to remind you, many of you have offered your comments on the annual conference. Our annual conference committee for next year is busily working, beginning to plan the program in San Jose, California, next October. But they need your feedback to help make it an even more dynamic and responsive conference. If you haven't given us your comments so far, please do so. And we invite you to give us your comments in any occasion. It doesn't have to be just at this conference, but we look forward to your input as well. And I also hope that you'll engage with us, whether it's electronically, whether it's through local groups, whether it's through our online university or future conferences. We really want to engage you in any way possible. And then, again, before you leave, we do have a prize drawing. And because we're in tough economies, this year we decided to do a cash drawing. One of our staff members, Iris Rush, who's Vice President of our Business Operations and the keeper of our cash accounts, will actually be the one that you need to turn to. So if Dennis Runzer, is Dennis Runzer here? Dennis, you are our recipient. Don't come to me. But you're going to find Iris Rush outside, and she will give you your cash prize drawing. Congratulations. So as you travel out of Philadelphia, we wish you very safe and pleasant journeys. It's a little easier to move around the city today than it was yesterday.